Hello, my name is Carl, and today I'm going to show you how to put these Moog CC 844S's on a 90 F150. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is put the car in some jack stands, lift the front end up so that the wheel is off the ground. My jack stands weren't quite tall enough, so that we're going to have to use a jack to lift the swing arm up so that I can get the wheel off. While you're working, make sure to keep all your nuts and bolts organized, like these lug nuts. And if you don't have a magnetic tray, but you have dog bowl hubcaps like I do, just throw them in there. Make sure one doesn't roll away on you. There you go. Now that we got the wheel off, we can see a little bit more of what we have to do. What we're going to do first is we're going to take off this bolt and nut down here for the shock absorber, and we're going to do that with the jack under the swing arm up right now, so it relieves a little bit of pressure off the shock, so we're able to slide it out easy. Remember, if stuff is rusty and or just old and cruddy like this is, spray it with a whole bunch of PB Blaster or the local equivalent of what you have. It works wonders, and it's really nice to have on hand. Okay, once you got that bolt out of the lower end of the shock there, we're just going to let it hang. And what we're going to do now is we're going to drop the swing arm down so that all the pressure, all the tension is off the spring, and then we're going to undo this top bolt here. Now these springs are dangerous, and now this is a way that you can do it at home without a spring compressor. In fact, most guys who do this on these trucks do it without spring compressors, and it worked for me on the other side about half hour ago. But if you're uncomfortable with what you're doing and you don't know what you're doing very well, it would be my recommendation to stop, either let a professional do it or watch some more YouTube videos. No, I'm just kidding. But please stop if you're feeling uncomfortable with what you're doing and feel like it's too dangerous or too advanced for you to attempt. So let's lower the swing arm down and relieve the pressure off this spring, and we'll undo the top one. The spring is released. You can see how the pressure is released because you see down here at the bottom end of the spring, this is ordinarily pressed flush and tight up against this metal bushing down here that fits into the swing arm. But now that we've lowered the swing arm here using the jack, the spring is pretty much just hanging there. In fact, there's probably more pressure pulling on the spring than there is pushing now, but that's okay. There's actually two bolts holding this in place. One is the little one on the top, and the other one is the big one down here on the bottom, but we got to do the one on the top here first. So in worst case scenario, if something goes bad and you undo one, it's not going to hopefully fly out and hit you in the face and permanently embed a spring into your forehead, because there's always one holding it on. Where you get into trouble is if you remove both of them at the same time and then decided to drop the or if you just did that at all. So only do one at a time, and please be careful. So we just took this nut out from the retaining bolt right here, and as you can see, the spring is just hanging there. Actually, it's going to want to try to come out now because the only thing that's holding it on is the bolt down there. So these came out for me pretty easily, as long as they had some PB Blaster or something on them. But then again, my truck isn't very rusted, and I do live in Florida, so those of you in the Rust Belt, which I'm not entirely sure where that is, or trucks that have a little bit more corrosion on them, will probably have a little bit more of an issue. Now for the bottom bolt. For my truck, it's a 1 1/8 inch socket, and since there's no room to really put it in the middle here, what you have to do is you have to drop it in from the top and then kind of slap it on the bottom like such. So if you have a deep socket, it would be better. This one just barely kind of grabs the nut because of the rest of the threads above it, but it should be okay. And then what you're going to do from here, you're going to take your breaker bar, you're going to slide it in between here, pop it on like a boss. I apologize for my camera work, it's not very good. And then, what you see, this is why it helps to have a deep socket, because this is not wanting to grab. Okay, well, I ended up needing a deeper socket, so I got to run out and get that. But to save time before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take this shock off. So make sure that you keep this. Obviously throw away the old shock. But this right here, it's a rubber bushing and a washer. And if you get the shocks like I do that don't come with these, make sure you keep these and put them on in the order they came off. For instance, mine, they go like this. They go washer, rubber bushing, the shock holder, and then the rubber bushing and the washer. And then the nut, and then the one of the nuts on the nut that came off it on the top. So essentially you have this thing right here sandwiched in between this and this. So there you go. Okie dokie, so I bought a 1 1/8 inch wrench because I couldn't find a deep enough socket. And we're just going to slide it right over this nut here through the spring, and we're going to loosen it up until it pops off. Okay, so what we did is we got the nut and the sleeve off. That sleeve actually fits right under the nut that we took off with the new wrench here. So now we're just going to pop this right off. Spring comes off, and as you can see, it rests on this knuckle here that can also come out. And this knuckle has a groove which fits inside that one on the swing arm. So you know exactly where it's at. If you take it off, don't worry about it. It goes right back in that slot there. It doesn't really move. So here's the old springs, and that in comparison with the new ones. Now they're about the same size, but these are going to be much stiffer. And I don't know if you can see it very well in the video, but they're actually progressive springs. So unlike these, which are pretty much the same spaced all the way down, this one here, they're tighter at the top, and it gets looser towards the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to put the tighter end up at the top. Also, another good thing to do is when you have the spring off while you're down here, look around, make sure that everything is okay. Just make sure that nothing's rusted out, because now that you have all this off is a really good time to just check out your surroundings and everything. Sometimes it depends on how bad the camber is on this after I put these springs on, but these are the camber bushings right here, and I might have to end up replacing these, which I'm not looking forward to, with some adjustable ones. But we'll see. Maybe I'll just pay the shop to do that for me, because that's a little bit more technical. Also, note this bolt right here on the other side was coming out, so this was a little loose, and this is what holds the bottom of the shock. So you don't want this to be loose at all. So just little stuff like that. Make sure that everything is nice and tight and cinched down just while you're in here, so you don't end up having to dive back into something you don't need to. Let's get this other spring on. Okay, so I got the new spring on. As you can see, the tighter coils are up top, and I put the sleeve on right here. This is after I put the spring on. So after I slip the spring over the bolt, then I put the sleeve inside the spring on, and then the nut goes on after that. What this is going to do is this is going to hold the spring in place, so that when we jack the car up a little bit to kind of set this. Because if you don't jack the car up, then you can't reach the retaining bolt and it won't grab onto the spring right here. So you kind of have to jack the swing arm up a little bit, just so that the spring kind of sets in place and you can fit the retaining bracket onto the spring and inside this little notch in here. But in order to do that safely, you want the bottom one to be on tight, so that if this were, God forbid, to slip out when you were jacking it up or something like that, it's not going to go shooting out of your car, because it's going to have the bottom bolt on that. Okay. So once you jack the swing arm up there a little bit, and you push the spring into place, it's got a little trick to it, but you gotta hold the bracket under the spring here and kind of push the spring into place as you jack it up, and then it'll pop right in. If you ever do this, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you just gotta hold all that there. Do it carefully, but just hold it all there. And then once the spring pops into place, this will still be loose, and you can feel that groove, and this will slide right into that groove. And the spring will have enough up pressure so that it'll hold itself in place. But then you can just slide it right in that groove, and the nut will fit. And the bolt will fit right into that hole and into the hole lining up inside the spring holder here. So we got the spring completely on. Both the bottom nuts here. The bottom nut is tight. The top bolt's in place, that's holding it on, so we're good. All that's left to do is put the shock on in the same order we took it off, and we'll be good to go. Okay, and of course the shock is super easy. You just do the bolt that you took out from the bottom, and hold the top of this thing with a pair of vice grips or something like that, and put the screw on the top. Remember to put the washers exactly on the way that you found them in the order. And now it's just time to put the wheel back on and lower the truck. So there we go, and that's it. The tires do have a pretty intense camber issue, as you can see. They're facing, if you're looking straight at the car, they'd be facing like this a little bit. But that's just something the alignment shop is going to have to get figured out. Not quite sure how much they're going to charge for an alignment and for camber adjustments, but hopefully it's not going to eat into my wallet too bad. So that's it. That's how you put your bigger, stiffer springs on a F-150. Hope that helped you out.